Hello and welcome to another episode on this channel. So today I want to talk about the CFO, Certificate of Occupancy, and specifically I want to tell you that a CFO is not enough. A CFO is not enough. The fact that because most Nigerians have the idea of we've so much sold the idea of a CFO to the point that some persons would say uh, once the one you offer make an offer for a sale of land to them, the first question they ask you is, does the land have a CFO? And the moment you say it doesn't have a CFO, then they are not interested. Okay, yeah, they have a point. Part of our policy at Fortreal is that we want to ensure that when we are buying land for a client, that the land has a CFO or is surveyed, right? But beyond that, there's a deeper level of investigation that is involved. The reason for okay, there's no time for that, but point is I want to establish in this particular video that a CFO is not enough. Having a CFO is not enough. The fact that a company or an individual has a CFO over a particular piece of land is not enough. Yeah, my name is Raymond Ijeomah, and I'm a real estate entrepreneur as well as a property lawyer here in Nigeria. Okay, so what is a CFO? A CFO came as a result of, I'm just going to be as succinct as possible and just drive home the point. You know that I try to, I'm not here to blow grammar for you or um, um, create more complications. We're just trying to be as simple as possible. Okay, so a CFO came in as a result of, or certificate of occupancy basically came in as a result of the initiation or the enactment of the Land Use Act of 1978. And by virtue of that provision, all lands in Nigeria territorially with respect to different states and then the FCT were handed over to the governor or the minister of FCT as the case may be, by virtue as trustees. All right, and they now administer the affairs of those lands. Of course, specifically to with some level of severance from urban area and rural areas. Okay, that's that, and then sequel to that law, that enactment, a document came into play which is referred to as the Certificate of Occupancy. And some persons consider that document as the Oga of them all. Yeah, yes, they are correct. They are correct to a large extent. However, it is not enough because there are procedures that before someone can get a certificate of occupancy. Of course, there are deemed rights by virtue of the Land Use Act of, like I said earlier, deemed rights, and then there are those whose certificate of occupancy came before or were deemed based on their ownership before, and then those that came based on the aftermath of the Land Use Act, the enactment of the Land Use Act. Just follow me, you would understand everything I'm trying to say. Okay, um, so basically, the Land Use Act came into play, and then the Certificate of Occupancy came into play as well. So, a number of factors to look at. Like I said, I'm going to go straight to the point for the purpose of this video. I'll have more extensive conversations around the CFO much later. But for this purpose of this video, I'm simply addressing the fact that the certificate of occupancy is not enough. Okay, so how do you get a CFO? But first, I need to establish that how do we own lands in Nigeria, even as of today, as has been established as in a plethora of authorities in Nigeria by by the judiciary in Nigeria. A number of ways, basically like 5 of them. The 7 will basically popular 5 ways to become the owner of a land in Nigeria: by documentary proof, by possession, by traditional history, by um, possession over a period of time, and one more. Okay, so those are the ways that you are able to become, that makes you, or that eventually makes you the owner of a particular property, piece of land in Nigeria. Now, document, one of those ways is via document. And one thing you should understand about the introduction of the Land Use Act is that we now have what is referred to as equitable title and legal title. Legal title in the sense that it has been, the terms and conditions of the Land Use Act has been fulfilled, and by virtue of that it is considered as legal. It doesn't mean that if you buy without getting a CFO is not legal as per legal, but it simply means that your title is equitable and it is subject to the legality that the Land Use Act brought into play. I know that at the end of the day, the CFO is like the last bus stop of every land, except when the government just gives it to you directly. Apart from where the government gives the CFO to you directly for some reasons, which is very rare, apart from such occasions, the CFO is usually the last bus stop. It's usually the last bus stop. Of course, there's the governor's consent, which I'm not talking about in this video, but the CFO, there are other ways that you can become the owner of a land. You can become a land by way of traditional history. Your father gave it to you, your great-grandfather deforested the land, and then it got to you. That doesn't, the fact that you don't have a CFO doesn't stop from being the owner of that land, okay? And those are all legit, legal ways of owning a land with nobody disturbing you, okay? So here is it. How is the CFO not enough? Number one, the CFO can be revoked, and a number of reasons for that. But the basic one I want to talk about in this video is, if the CFO that you have doesn't flow from genuine title, then you are going to have the wrong CFO. And when you eventually go to court, you raise your shoulder, you go to court to go and fight someone that is claiming title and doesn't have a CFO, then you are going to lose, because your CFO is not the paramount document to prove ownership. Okay. Okay. Let me establish it. What I'm trying to say is, let me walk you through the process of getting a CFO. You don't just walk up straight to the government. Government doesn't sell land, as it were. Yes, the Land Use Act says that the CFO, that lands now belong to the government, is now vested in the governor of the state. That's what the Land Use Act says. But when you want to buy a land in Nigeria, you don't go to the government that you want to buy a land. You don't go to the governor's office and say you want to buy a land. That's not what you do, right? Or is that what you do? No, not at all. So if that's not what you do, then there's a process. There are stages before you are able to get to that point where you are applying for a CFO. And the process is that you approach the person who owns the land. I've looked into the history of the Land Use Act and how it came about based on concerns of most Nigerians at the time. But as of today, the applications are still an issue that I have concerns about, right? But basically, the focus of this particular video is to establish that that particular land is particular CFO that derives its essence from the Land Use Act is not enough in terms of proving title. Okay, so basically, you approach the owner of the land, the family, the individual, or the community, and after buying the land, you pay to them. You pay, you make payment. Both of you, both parties, prepare a deed, because part of that deed is a prerequisite, is important, is one key document. In fact, if you do not go to the governor's office, if you do not go to the land, not governor's office, straight up, if you do not go to the registry, if you do not go to the for a place like Edo State, Edogis, land registry generally, if you do not go to the land registry with the title document, that vested title in you, you will never ever get the CFO. You will not. So, if that is the procedure, as a matter of fact, a number of other things that you will need are basic other things. Some states have different extras that you would submit, documents that you will submit to get a CFO. But basically, what you need to get a CFO is a photocopy of a non-refundable application fee, 6 copies of your cadastral or survey plan of the said land, photocopy of the conveyance or vesting agreement title document, purchase receipt, deed of assignment, etc. Photocopy of the applicant's 3 years current tax clearance certificate, and a number of other basic things, like I said, depending on the state. So it is with this document and a number of others, depending on the state, then you will take and approach the registry, the land registry, to now apply for a CFO. So peradventure that, and don't forget, following the fact that there is a first stage, which is acquisition, conveyancing, and then application for CFO, it means that you must have bought from the right person. So peradventure you bought from Mr. B when Mr. A is actually the owner of the land, and then you rush to apply for a CFO and eventually get the CFO, and then Mr. A, who had all the while not known that you had done something like that, eventually discovers that, oh, somebody now has a CFO on my land. Whoa, that's not, no, it's my property. And then the matter goes to court. Mr. A eventually, if he is able to prove ownership, genuine title, based on the fact that, let's even just use just one angle, which is one of the ones I talked about. I remember I said you could prove ownership through traditional history, possession, documents, and all of that. So let's say he inherited it from his father, and there is clear proof of that fact. Now, if he's able to establish that on the basis of traditional history that he is the owner, even though that other man has gone, he bought it from the wrong person and has gone to acquire a CFO, the court will gladly reverse that, revoke and declare that CFO null and void, because that CFO was not acquired genuinely. It was not acquired on the basis of genuine title, because there's someone who possesses superior title, and there are a plethora of cases where the CFO has been declared null and void. So when next you see a CFO, but beyond having a CFO, investigate the title to be sure that it flowed from the right person. Because if it doesn't flow from the right person, what you are just going to have is a CFO in the name of a CFO, but not a CFO in the value of a CFO. So, in as much as we are super excited about the CFO, be sure that the person you are buying from actually bought from the right people or possesses title to have really acquired the CFO. Because people in the registry don't investigate title. I say with due respect. When they see that you submitted the necessary documents, they just apply. They just haven't paid necessary fees, and you get the CFO, and haven't gotten the CFO, you move on and you are excited. But the point is, if title is not really vested in you, then that CFO would just have been okay. Let me leave you to determine what it would amount to at that particular point in time. But the point is, do well to get your CFO, or do well to buy property that has a C of O. But beyond that, do well to ensure that the person who possesses the C of O has the right, really possesses title genuinely. Because a thief or a fraudster will not be allowed to continue to be the owner of a land simply because he was fast or he was fast enough, or he was enlightened enough to quickly get the CFO, and then allow the genuine person who really owns the land, who may not have had money to acquire or apply for a CFO, to lose his land. Logically, that doesn't make sense, and in law, it won't also make sense. My name again is Raymond Ijeomah, and I'm a real estate entrepreneur as well as a property lawyer here in Nigeria. If you love what you just watched, do it to subscribe if you haven't. Share with a friend. If you have questions, drop it in the comment section. And then if you want to reach out to me directly, there's a line, there's a number on the cover page. Do it to reach out for questions or whatever. And then of course, share this with a friend. Share this with a friend. On that note, I would like to say bye-bye.